As an Arab person, what I want to start with is that looking at the natural resources and the human capital in the Arab world, there is nothing that explains what's happening. Oh, you can't hear me, Maggie? Yeah. So as an Arab person, if I look at the natural resources in those countries, if I look at the human capital in those countries, I can't understand what's happening, sincerely. So indeed, the Arab Spring might have been spurred by poverty, but behind poverty, the real question is social injustice. And I think if we want to build resilience in the Arab countries, we have to tackle that. And to do so, we need a lot of reforms. So there is institutional reforms. Most of the countries don't have institutions. And when the person goes, the whole thing's collapse. And that doesn't make any sense for a country of 60 million or 30 million people. We need political reforms. We need operational reforms. And we need social reforms as well. So most of the Arab countries are renter state. So their social construct is based on benefits for compliance. So what the government is doing is keeping the people quiet, giving them enough to keep them quiet. And normally what we need is a resilient system that where we have social construct that's based on production and social justice. And you can only do that by empowering people. So that could be, that's the gender, it's there, the woman is there, the youth is very important, but also bringing more private companies in and giving them space to develop the country. So that's really from my heart, as an Arab person, that feels really very bad about it. But if I want to go to much more the food security side and the water security side, the region on the top of being in evolution, because of this social injustice and this privileged strata of the population, taking almost all of it, and because we are losing the middle class as we go, and that's part of the reason behind most of the collapses. Besides that, the problem is that as we go, as climate change impact grows, the problem is going to grow bigger. Because the region, for its geographical situation, but also for its historical agricultural system, it's very, very fragile to climate change. And those climate change are incubating many problems. So there is the new diseases that are emerging. Most of them going to be zoonotics. There's a huge health problem there. There is also the effect on agriculture that indeed very high on the GDP of most countries. That is a threat of the food production system inside. And that's why I think, particularly for this region, and because of its fragility to the climate change, there should be a much more longer-term resilience program and resilience plan. So talking about the water is one of the biggest limitations in the region for development, mostly for agriculture. Agriculture takes about 70 to 80% of the water in the region. And now we see a lot of competition from the water from different sectors, from agriculture, from industry, from urban. So the nexus between energy, food, and water, it's very clear. And most of the time, it's the agricultural people that they are losing. Although they are using most of it right now, they won't be using most of it in the future. And that's where we have the poorest population, as my colleagues said. So there will be in the future more problems about the water, and most probably the losing component will be the agriculture and the poorest population in the Arab world. So the linkages between food security, water security, nutrition security, it's very, very huge in the countries. It's most of the countries in the Arab world have the highest diabetic rate, for example. There's a lot of cardiovascular problems. And because, like in the politics, we weren't well built up at the beginning, so there isn't institution. The same thing for the drastic changes that happen in the diet, that people have changed completely their diet, and we have so many health problems. So at the end, what I want to say is that, unfortunately, in the Arab world, as well as in the other poor countries in Africa or elsewhere, the cost of famine, drought, and disaster is not borne by government. It's borne by the poorest people. So if we want to build resilience, we should build those people. we should build the institution, we should interfere on the education side, make sure that these people ask their government for accountability, because we think there isn't taxes in most of these countries. Believe me, in Morocco, the taxes is as high as Canada. I was paying 50% in Canada. My dad has been always paying 50 to 52% in Morocco. So it's not about the taxation system or the reporting for system. It's much more about how much does society know about it, how much they are aware of it, how much they are given the choice to say we want to invest in health, we want to invest in education and other things. So by the end, I would like to conclude by saying that the Arab region needs an asset-based approach which develops social capital and engage the resilient community. And I agree fully with Dan when he said yesterday that really is about the human capital. Thank you.